What if I told you that the most dangerous man in America is not the one who owes $1 million, but the one who owes nothing at all? Sit with that for a second. The man who sleeps soundly at night, who opens his mailbox and finds nothing but silence, who looks at his phone and sees no payment reminders, no collection calls, no past due notices. That man, the one with zero balances across the board, is the one the entire financial system has quietly marked as a threat, not because he broke the law, not because he failed, but because he refused to play the game. And what I am about to walk you through is the exposed blueprint of a machine that was built, brick by brick, over the last century, specifically to make sure you never, ever become that man. Let me paint you a picture. There's a guy, let us call him Davis. Davis is 42 years old. He drives a paid-off truck, lives in a modest house he bought with cash after saving for 15 years, and carries a single debit card in his wallet. No credit cards, no car note, no student loans. Nothing. Davis should be the poster child of financial success in America. He did everything right. He sacrificed. He waited. He said no to things other people said yes to without thinking. And yet, when Davis went to rent an apartment in another city for a temporary work assignment, he was denied. The reason? His credit score was too low. Not because he had bad credit, because he had no credit. The system literally could not compute a man who owed nothing to anyone. The algorithm looked at Davis, saw a man with no debts, and categorized him as a ghost. Untrustworthy, invisible, more risky than the guy down the hall who owed $60,000 on 3 maxed-out credit cards but made his minimum payments on time. Think about that. The guy drowning in debt was considered more reliable than the man who was completely free. That is not a glitch. That is the system working exactly as it was designed to work. And this is where the story gets dark. Because you have to ask yourself, who designed this system? Who sat in a room and decided that owing money was a sign of trustworthiness and owing nothing was suspicious? That question has an answer, and the answer has names, dates, and addresses. It starts in a time most people have forgotten about, in rooms most people never knew existed, with decisions that shaped every single financial interaction you will ever have in your life. Before we go back in time, let me explain what is actually happening to you right now, today, in plain language. You exist inside a system that profits from your debt, not from your wealth, not from your savings, from your debt. Every dollar you owe someone is an asset on someone else's balance sheet. When you take out a car loan, that loan does not just sit there. It gets bundled, packaged, and sold to investors. Your promise to pay becomes a product. Your 30-year mortgage is not just a house payment. It is a security, traded on Wall Street, bet on by hedge funds, profited from by pension managers. You are not the customer in this system. You are the raw material. Your signature on a loan document is the moment they mine you for value, and a man with no debts, he is a dry well. There is nothing to extract, nothing to package, nothing to sell. He has removed himself from the supply chain, and the machine does not appreciate that. Not one bit. Now let us rewind. Let us go back to the 1920s, before the crash, before the depression, before everything fell apart. America in the roaring 20s was drunk on credit for the first time. Before this era, most Americans paid cash for almost everything. If you could not afford it, you did not buy it. That was not a philosophy. That was just life. But then something shifted. Retailers, car manufacturers, and banks realized something that would change the world forever. They realized that they could sell more products if people did not have to pay for them right away. Installment plans started appearing everywhere. Buy a radio for $5 down and $1 a week. Buy a car for $50 down and $10 a month. Buy a refrigerator, a washing machine, a living room set, all on credit. And people went wild for it. For the first time, a factory worker could own the same things a manager owned. A secretary could wear the same coat as her boss. Credit was the great equalizer, or so they were told. But here is what nobody explained to them. Every single one of those installment plans carried interest. And that interest, quiet and invisible, was transferring wealth from the pockets of working people into the vaults of banks and finance companies. The product was the bait. The interest was the hook. And by 1929, America was so leveraged, so stretched thin, so deeply in debt at every level, that when the stock market collapsed, it did not just wipe out Wall Street. It wiped out kitchen tables. Families who owed money on everything they owned watched it all get repossessed. Cars, furniture, homes, gone. Not because they were irresponsible, because the system had been designed to get them to overextend, and then the floor dropped out. Now here is the part they do not teach you in school. After the Great Depression, after the dust settled, and the government stepped in to rebuild, you would think the lesson would have been clear. Debt is dangerous. Credit must be handled with extreme caution. The system should be reformed to protect people from overborrowing. But that is not what happened. What happened was the exact opposite. The architects of the new financial order looked at the wreckage and did not see a warning. They saw an opportunity. They realized that debt, when managed correctly, was the most powerful tool of social control ever invented. A man in debt shows up to work on time. A man in debt does not start a business. A man in debt does not quit his job. A man in debt does not protest in the streets. A man in debt is obedient because he has to be. His future labor has already been sold. He is not free. He just thinks he is. The 1950s changed everything. The post-war boom created a new kind of American, the suburban consumer, and the financial industry was ready for him. This is when the modern credit system was truly born. In 1950, a man named Frank McNamara was sitting in a New York restaurant and realized he had forgotten his wallet. The embarrassment of that moment led him to create the Diners Club card, the first modern credit card. Within a year, it had 20,000 members. Within a decade, the concept had exploded. Bank of America launched the Bank Americard in 1958, which later became Visa. The idea was elegant and devastating in equal measure. Give people a card that lets them spend money they do not have. Charge them interest on what they spend. Make the minimum payment low enough that they can always afford to stay in debt but never quite get out of it. This was not an accident. This was engineering. And then came the masterstroke, the credit score. Before the modern scoring system, when you wanted a loan, you walked into a bank and talked to a human being. That human being looked at you, knew your family, knew your reputation in the community, and made a judgment call. It was imperfect, it was biased, but it was personal. The creation of the FICO score in 1989 changed all of that. Suddenly, your entire financial life was reduced to a 3-digit number. And the formula for that number, the actual algorithm, was a closely guarded secret, but the effects were clear. The score rewarded one thing above all else: active debt management, not wealth, not savings, not assets. The score was designed to measure how well you juggled debt. A man who borrowed money and paid it back reliably got a high score. A man who never borrowed at all got almost nothing. The system literally penalized you for not participating in debt. It was like a game that docked you points for refusing to play. Let me tell you about a woman named Elaine. Elaine retired at 60 with a paid-off house, $200,000 in savings, and no debt of any kind. She had been a teacher for 35 years. She lived modestly, drove a used car, and never owned a credit card in her life. When her husband died and she tried to refinance her home to a lower rate just to simplify things, she was denied. The bank told her she was a credit ghost. 35 years of responsible living, of discipline, of saving every spare dollar, and the system treated her like she did not exist. Meanwhile, her neighbor, a man who had declared bankruptcy twice and was currently carrying $40,000 in credit card debt, had a score of 680 and could get approved for almost anything. He was visible to the system. Elaine was not. The system does not see virtue. It sees activity. It does not reward discipline. It rewards participation. And participation means debt. Now let us talk about how this machine actually runs. Because it is not just banks. It is not just credit card companies. It is an entire ecosystem that has been built around keeping you in debt, and it touches every part of your life. Start with education. The average college graduate in America today walks across that stage with somewhere around $30,000 in student loan debt. $30,000 before they have earned their first real paycheck. Before they have bought a car, before they have rented an apartment, they are already in the hole, and that is by design. The cost of education did not skyrocket by accident. It rose in lockstep with the availability of student loans. When the government guaranteed that students could borrow almost unlimited amounts, universities had no reason to keep costs down. Why charge $10,000 a year when you can charge $40,000 and the loan company will cover it? The student is just the conduit. The money flows from the government, through the student, into the university, and the student is left holding the bag for the next 20 years. Their first act as an adult in America is to sign a document pledging their future labor to a creditor. Their first act of freedom is an act of bondage. Then comes the car. You need a car to get to work. You need work to pay for the car. The average car payment in America right now is over $700 a month. $700 a month for a machine that loses value the second you drive it off the lot. But the system does not care about value. It cares about the payment. It cares about the interest. A 6-year car loan at 5% interest on a $35,000 vehicle means you will pay over $40,000 total for something worth $15,000 by the time you're done paying. The bank makes $5,000 for doing nothing except processing your paperwork, and they will happily give you another loan the day after you pay this one off. In fact, they will contact you. They will send you letters. They will call you. They want you back in debt the moment you escape it. And then the house, the big one, the American dream, the 30-year mortgage. Think about what that phrase actually means. 30 years. You sign a document at 30 and you are not free until you are 60. And the way the amortization schedule works, For the first 10 years, you are almost entirely paying interest. Barely any of your payment goes toward the actual house. The bank gets its money first. Always. You are paying for the privilege of living in a house the bank technically owns for the first 2 decades. And if you lose your job in year 8, if you get sick in year 12, if the market crashes in year 15, the bank takes the house back. They get the house and the 8 years of interest you already paid. You get nothing. That is the deal. That is the American dream. Now, layer on top of this the psychological machinery. Because debt is not just a financial product. It is a psychological weapon. Every advertisement you see is designed to make you feel like you are not enough. Your car is not new enough. Your phone is not fast enough. Your clothes are not current enough. Your kitchen is not modern enough. The message is constant, and it comes from every direction. Television, social media, billboards, podcasts, even the people around you. Spend, upgrade, treat yourself. You deserve it. And the credit card is always right there, ready to bridge the gap between who you are and who they tell you should be. That gap, that space between your reality and their manufactured ideal, that is where all the profit lives. That is the gold mine. Your insecurity is the most valuable commodity in the economy. And when you are in debt, something happens to you psychologically. You become smaller. Not physically. Something inside you contracts. You stop taking risks. You stop dreaming big. You stay at the job you hate because the payments are due on the 15th. You do not start the business because what if it fails and you cannot make the mortgage? You do not speak up at work because they might fire you, and then what? Debt does not just take your money. It takes your courage. It takes your options. It takes the version of you that might have existed if you were free. And the system knows this. The system counts on this. A population in debt is a population under control. You do not need chains when you have credit card statements. So what does freedom actually look like? And I am not talking about the fake freedom they sell you, the freedom to buy whatever you want with money you do not have. I am talking about the real thing, the kind that makes the system nervous. Freedom looks like a man who walks into a car dealership and pays cash for a used truck. The salesman's face drops. Not because the sale is bad, but because there is no financing, no interest, no monthly revenue stream. The dealership makes more money on the loan than on the car itself, and this man just cut them out of the profit. Freedom looks like a woman who rents a small apartment, owns nothing on credit, and saves 40% of her income. She has no score, but she has something better. She has options. She can walk away from any job, any city, any situation, because nothing is holding her down. No payment is chasing her. No creditor is waiting for the first of the month. Freedom looks like the family that homeschools their kids, grows food in their backyard, buys clothes at thrift stores, and drives cars that are 15 years old. Their neighbors think they are strange. Their relatives think they are struggling. But they have something almost nobody in their zip code has. They have peace. Real, bone-deep peace. The kind you feel at 2 a.m. when you wake up and there's no knot in your stomach, no anxiety about the bills, no dread about Monday. Just silence. Just calm. Just the sound of your own breathing in a house that is actually yours. The ancient world understood this. Before credit scores and installment plans, before Visa and MasterCard, civilizations had a word for the man who was free from debt. They called him sovereign. In ancient Rome, a citizen who owed money was literally owned by his creditor. He could be forced into labor. He could be imprisoned. His freedom was conditional on his balance sheet. And when he paid off his debts, it was celebrated like a second birth. He was reborn as a free man. The ceremony was public. It was honored. Because they understood something we have forgotten. Debt is not a tool. It is a leash. And the man who cuts the leash is not reckless. He is the most dangerous person in the room because he cannot be controlled. The Stoics wrote about this 2,000 years ago. Seneca, one of the richest men in Rome, said that wealth was not about having much, but about needing little. Epictetus, a former slave, said that no man is free who is not master of himself. These were not abstract ideas. These were survival strategies for a world that, even then, was designed to keep men dependent on systems of power. The language has changed. The suits have changed. The buildings are taller, and the spreadsheets are digital. But the game is exactly the same. They want you to need them. The moment you do not need them, you become ungovernable. So, how do you become that man? How do you become the ghost in the machine, the one the algorithm cannot categorize, the one the system cannot control? It starts with a brutal act of honesty. You sit down, alone, in a quiet room, and you write down every single thing you owe, every dollar, every payment, every subscription, every loan. You look at that list and you let it hit you. You let yourself feel the weight of it, because most people never do this. They keep the number vague. They keep it fuzzy. They know it is bad, but they do not want to see exactly how bad. That vagueness is by design. The system benefits from your ignorance. Clarity is rebellion. Then you start cutting. Not trimming, cutting. The streaming services, the food deliveries, the new clothes you do not need, the car you cannot afford, the apartment that costs half your paycheck. You go to war with your own lifestyle, and you do it without apology. People will call you cheap. People will call you boring. People will not understand why you are driving a beat-up car when you could finance something new. Let them talk. Their opinions are financed too. They are paying interest on the lifestyle they are using to judge you. You stack cash. You attack the smallest debt first and you destroy it. Then the next one. Then the next. Every payment you eliminate is a chain you cut. Every zero balance is a door that opens. And somewhere along the way, something shifts. The anxiety starts to fade. The tightness in your chest starts to loosen. You start to feel something you have not felt in years, maybe ever. You feel light. You feel like you can breathe. You feel like the future is not a sentence to be served, but a road to be walked. And that exact feeling is what the system never wanted you to have. Because a man with no debt is a man who can say no. No to the job that crushes his soul. No to the apartment in the expensive neighborhood. No to the pressure to keep up with people who are quietly drowning. No is the most powerful word in the English language, and debt takes it away from you. Every loan you sign is a no you can no longer say. Every payment you owe is a yes you are forced to give. The system is not designed to make you rich. It is designed to make you compliant. And compliance is profitable. So the next time someone tells you that you need to build your credit, ask yourself a question. Build it for whom? When someone says you need a good score, ask, good for whom? When the system tells you that a man with no debt is invisible, ask yourself, invisible to whom? Because maybe, just maybe, being invisible to a machine that was built to harvest you is not a failure. Maybe it is the smartest thing you have ever done. Maybe the man with no debts is not a ghost. Maybe he is the only one who is actually alive. And maybe, if enough people figure that out, the whole game changes. And that, more than anything, is what keeps them up at night.